Oh boy, sure has been a minute since the last actual video. I've been a little busy being addicted to Killing Floor 2, and Bloons Tower Defense 6, and a certain game about a certain land may have taken up a week of my life. But regardless, ULTRAKILL finally got a new update, and it was a big one. 6 new levels, a new gun, 3 new bosses, and some killer new songs added to this game's already stellar soundtrack. We got the good stuff, Chef's Kiss, and it is so much harder than before. These changes that were made in this update were ginormous, and they made the game way harder, but I'll get into all that later. And this video will be inherently outdated when I upload it, because there's no secret level for the Wrath layer, and there's no Prime Soul to fight in Heresy. But there's more than enough content to make up for all that, so let's get into it.
If you put a French fry and some ice cream, you will have a...
The first new level in over a year, and it does not disappoint. It begins with the grapple segment, which for new players is actually kind of interesting, but for the vast majority of ULTRAKILL players, this is just some basic platforming because we've had the whiplash for over a year now. While you're in this cave, a very simple ambient track can be heard. Very nice. Then you take the plunge into the water and... oh my goodness gracious, that piano! This is the first major combat room in the game to be entirely underwater, and surprisingly, it actually doesn't suck. It's pretty much just normal combat, but a little floatier than normal. The first segment of the level is pretty simple. Just go to these 3 rooms, grab the blue skull inside, and bring it back to the center room to open the big door. Then you go through some pipes, blast some baddies away, and are introduced to the new enemy of this layer, the Sentry.
Look at this dude.
These funny guys are pretty easy to take out on their own, but throw in more than one and trouble begins to arise. Their whole gimmick is they sit in one place, charge up, and shoot you really hard. For health and safety reasons, I recommend not letting them do that. Some efficient methods of execution are to shoot them with a revolver once they've sat down, as this interrupts their shot and forces them to reset it. Another good way of bullying them is to run directly at it, do a ground slam so they get launched into the air, and then juggle them by shotgun swapping until they die. They may be pretty easy to kill, but do not let this get to your head, because they are quite tanky and sometimes simply do not feel like dying. The rest of this level is a long corridor filled with enemies. When you get almost to the end, it'll spawn some sentries and avert you way at the back of the corridor, forcing you to backtrack before ending the level. Now this level has a very special place in my heart, as it is my favorite in the entire game. Everything from the set pieces to the enemy choices to the music, or the lack thereof. And the boss at the end, it's just all spectacular. Most of the level doesn't even have any music, just the ambience of the rain pouring down endlessly. When you first step out of the elevator, you see this massive ocean flowing in one direction because this used to be the River Styx. Now, because of the massive influx of human souls being forced into it, it has become the Ocean Styx. If you look closely, the texture of the water vaguely resembles human bodies, and you can see hands reaching out above the surface of the water. Anyway, back to the actual level. You run across these precarious platforms, shooting some goobers along the way until you reach this little cabin. A single filth will spawn, and this is the way the game introduces you to the Idol. The Idol is a statue that buffs one enemy, making them completely impervious to any damage. They can only be destroyed by melee attacks, so they're usually a very high priority target. After being introduced to the Idol, you go into the next house and get an actual combat arena where one enemy will be buffed by an Idol. You must kill every other enemy before destroying it. 2 waves of that and you get a blue skull. Jump across some more rickety bridges and put the skull on the pedestal, then watch this happen. that is the ferryman's ship. According to their lore, the ferryman's boats progressed alongside humanity, so rather than having to use a dinky little rowboat, they can use what is essentially the Titanic. Now you gotta backtrack a little more, but this time go to the left and go into this building here. Fight some more silly little guys, grab the red skull, boom boom bam, now you can get on the ship. If you go to the back, there's a secret double health upgrade, which you might want. On the main deck, we see the boss of the level, the ferryman himself. Say hello, ferryman!
Hello!
If you take out the revolver and flip a coin towards him, he'll catch it and open the exit door for you. But that's boring. So instead we break his idol to make him mad and then we shoot him to death. So now we're inside the ship, and I have to say, these sinners get some pretty swanky lodging considering this boat is taking them to their place of eternal torment. But anyhow, this level is similar to 1-3 in the way that there are 2 ways to go, but only one is required to access the latter half of the level. But if you do get both skulls, it opens a secret path so you can beat the level without touching water. If you go the normal route, you'll eventually come to this room and get the new gun in this update, the rocket launcher. Let's take a break from the level to discuss this beautiful blaster. Because in ULTRAKILL there is no ammo system, the rocket launcher had to be balanced very particularly, because explosions are very powerful in this game. When you fire the rocket launcher, if it hits the ground, it will not explode. Instead, it will create a shockwave that will propel you and enemies away from it. If a rocket makes direct contact with an enemy, it will explode, doing a lot of damage. If the enemy is in the air and they get hit by a rocket, it will make an even bigger and more powerful explosion, allowing for things like this to happen. There's currently only one variant of the rocket launcher, which will keep the rocket suspended in time until either alt fire is clicked again or the clock on the gun itself runs out. We can use this time bubble to do the coolest thing in a video game ever made. Back to the level, once you grab the rocket launcher, the ship is flipped upside down and you go through previous rooms, only now the ship is beginning to flood. Eventually you'll find the exit and go to the final level of Wrath. This level is pretty short, but it's the most atmospheric out of the bunch. This is the bottom of the ocean Styx, and it is very, very dark. If you look up towards the surface, a flash of lightning will reveal the distant shape of my pet tapeworm. Here's a picture of him. Isn't he just a cutie? Jump on this stream of bubbles and you'll be launched to the surface where the final boss of the Wrath lair awaits. The Leviathan is actually the easiest boss that was added, but I think it's still pretty interesting for how large of a boss it is. It has one weak spot, this cute little guy on top of its head. It's actually its heart. So if you shoot that specific spot, it will do extra damage. However, you can also shoot the mouth and certain parts of the body. Bear in mind some parts of it act as armor and explosions will bounce right off. I had to find this out the hard way. The first phase will only ever have you fighting one section of the Leviathan, the head or the tail. The second phase puts both together, which is really just more annoying than difficult. Kill this overgrown garden snake and move on to the final layer of Act 2, Heresy. You know, for taking place in Hell, ULTRAKILL hasn't looked very...
Oh my goodness!
So we finally get a more typical depiction of Hell in the Heresy lair. Lots of red and black and lava and evil things. This level also brings swords machines back in the very first room, utilizing the age-old trope of Early boss becomes normal enemy later in the game. It's not a bad thing, in fact I think it works really well here. What I really don't like is the two malicious faces on either side of the room. They annoy me. After that, we get this wonderful arena that utilizes darkness in such a way that I can see the enemies, but I also can't. But I can because everything is red, more so than normal. I also like that if these pillars are shot, glass and other particles just go everywhere. Destructible environments are very nice. I believe the first game to ever do that was Minecraft. Then there's this factory-esque room where two virtues, a malicious face, and a sentry will spawn. Not too hard, just don't give the sentry a chance to shoot and be mindful of the faces attacked. Then you get a red skull and walk around with it for a little while. He's your buddy. Very dark hallways. I wonder what this will...
Oh my goodness!
This is where the level really starts throwing a lot at you, with two waves of a whole lot of demons that are in need of a shotgun calissotomy, as Postal fans would put it. Then there's this room, 3 platforms, some soldiers, and a friendly little face. Another arena out in the open, this time a virtue in the back being protected by an idol, and every platform will spawn a group of enemies to get in the way. After that, we get some crying from Gabriel.
Machine, I know you're here. I can smell the insolent stench of your blood-stained hands. I await you down below. Come to me.
And then we get the big arena for the level, with 2 hideous masses on either side of the door, and several smaller enemies chilling around all the different areas of the room. Now this is the most hyped level in the game so far. So just like I did with Minos Prime, I want to just let all this play out in its entirety before I talk about it.
Limbo, lust, all gone. Gluttony soon to follow. Your kind know nothing but hunger, purged all life on the upper layers. Machine, I will cut you down, break you apart, splay the gore of your profane form across the stars. I will grind you down until the very sparks cry for mercy. My hands shall relish ending you here and now. Is this what I want to? Twice beaten by an object. Twice. And your days few.
For starters, that beginning dialogue is just voice acting perfection. That voice crack in the middle of it sold the pure rage that Gabriel is feeling, as well as the entire boss battle. So this fight mechanically actually has less than the first one against old Gabe here, where there used to be light weapons, there are now only a couple of sword swing combos. There's a 3-hit combo, each swing can be parried, a 5-hit combo, last hit can be parried, and a sword throw attack, which can also be parried. Just like last time, he will occasionally pause to taunt the player, giving a good chance to heal or do some big flashy attack, as you should be doing. Because of the way he attacks, it's best to move diagonally, because otherwise he'll just kill you in 2 or 3 hits. After both health bars are gone, the boss is beaten, he has an epiphany, leaves, allows you to exit the room, and ends Act 2 of ULTRAKILL. Now that I've gone over all the levels, there's a few more little things I need to mention. For one, the Whiplash had some major changes to it. It used to be very, very powerful, pretty much nullifying the difficulty of getting health or moving closer to an enemy, because it had no drawbacks. Now, whenever you use it, it will inflict what is called hard damage, which basically acts as a temporary health cap. It will go away as your style meter goes up, but it is generally a lot more risky to use it now. Some enemies got changed to make them less of a pushover. Malicious faces gained an immunity to most explosions, so using a shotgun to projectile boost an explosion onto them from halfway across the room no longer works. Soldiers also got a slight immunity to explosions. If you try to shoot them with a rocket or something while they're on the ground, they simply knock it away like a street cleaner. What you need to do is get them in the air first via either whiplash or ground slam. I should also mention street cleaners will knock rockets away whether they're in the air or not. Also, Sentries and Ferrymen were added to the pool of enemies available in the Cybergrind, so that just got a lot more difficult. Enjoy watching your PR go from 60 to 30. Well, here we are at the end of the video. Many good things were added to this game, and I'm hoping many more good things will be added sooner rather than later. You may have noticed I didn't mention many secrets in this video, and that's because there's like 3, and I don't feel like mentioning them. I also forgot that you can now change the color of your guns, so players can finally have something to spend their battle points on. Subscribe for more average reviews, and maybe I'll crawl out of my cave to make another video in 6 months. Until then, keep ultra killing, and remember,
You are less than nothing!